What is up, everyone? Tim Anderson here, aka Renfill, and I'm back again talking more Lord of the Rings news with the MMORPG scene. So, as we know, there was an MMO announced by Amazon Studios in conjunction with the Embracer Group. I'm sitting weird, everybody. So, if you guys can see down here, Lucas is down here behind me. He's waking up this morning. If you've been paying attention to the shorts, he got he got bit really bad on his back leg, so he's been literally just camped out in my chair all night. We're here early morning, and he's waking up as I'm recording the news and getting his scritches in. Anyway, if I sit at a weird angle today, that's why. So hopefully you guys don't get freaked out by like the glare off my bald forehead. Don't bite me. What are you doing, buddy? Um. Anyway, covered a couple of different news articles on this. Of course, the announcement, and then I talked about Cordovan's post over on the Lord of the Rings Online forums talking about, hey guys, Standing Stone Games is here to stay. We intend to keep working on our game. We don't foresee any issues with us living in the same space um, as the new project from Amazon Studios. And apparently over at I'm gonna link this in the description text below. But this is over at gamesindustry.biz. They actually sat down with Christopher Hartman, who is I think he's the head of Amazon Games, vice president of Amazon Games, and they start off talking about the MMO project that was canceled, that was previously in development between Amazon Games and Leo Technologies, who got bought out by Tencent after the project already started. And then they said at that point it was not 100% clear if the rights went to Tencent or not. We talked, we knew people there. It was a 10-year project, knew what's going to happen. Better to stay friends. So they decided to move on. Then the company, Middle Earth Enterprises, the company that controls the rights to the works, then came to Amazon and said the license had reverted to them. New discussions began. The two firms just couldn't find an agreement, mostly around that restrictive license, which we've seen come into play with the Rings of Power and other projects over the years, where the Tolkien estate keeps a tight grip on things and there are only certain things that can be adapted. Then last summer, Middle Earth Enterprises was acquired by the Embracer Group, and this is when Christopher Hartman talks about how there are a ton of people in there I knew, like Randy Pitchford from Gearbox, who I worked in the past. Didn't think it was going to work, but I thought I might as well pitch and give them a call. Didn't hurt. They were actually interested. And I think we got lucky that the person who's now in charge of Middle Earth Enterprises is an old colleague of mine from the early days of Take Two and Rockstar. So that helped with the trust thing. So that allowed them to circle back around and be in a position to work on an upcoming MMO style game. But what's very interesting about this interview is all the press has been talking about an MMO style of game. But it talks here about the fact that they've never actually mentioned the term MMORPG, which a lot of people are associating with this game. Lord of the Rings Online, as an example, started off as an MMORPG, as did Star Wars: The Republic, and those games have sort of transitioned over time to become more of single player RPG experiences within a multiplayer space. And it sounds to me, if you dive into this interview in great depth, which you should, I'm having the link down in the description below. Um, it sounds to me like what they're attempting to build here is an immersive world, but they are definitely focused on the game as a service component. So I would say look to Lost Ark as an example of what they will maybe do. Obviously, it'll be a different IP, probably be a completely different game, but I'm thinking in terms of monetization and things of that nature. In any case, Hartman said his ambition is to make this the largest MMO out there, a fact made somewhat more challenging by the fact there's already a long-running Lord of the Rings MMO out there, which is Lord of the Rings Online, operating by Standing Stones Games. Now, this is where I wanted to focus this, because a lot of this is cool. We're getting more information about the type of game they're building, but also we're getting specific information because people want to know what's the future of Lord of the Rings Online, and this provides a little more clarity from the other side of the fence, which is the sense that both games can coexist. They're completely different things. And I'm paraphrasing here, and I can read some statements from Hartman. But essentially, the paraphrasing is without being rude, no disrespect intended. Lord of the Rings Online is an old game. It's always going to have a certain audience. It's not a huge audience, but it's a very loyal and dedicated audience. That's enough for them to go on continuing to be, the thing that they are, which is a niche title. We're not trying to be a niche title. We're trying to be a massive title. We want to sell millions of units, given the fact that Lost Ark did as well as it did without being anything. It wasn't original IP. Or it was original IP. It wasn't based on hugely successful IP, I would argue that whatever numbers Lost Arks are, we're going to see those significantly multiplied because this is Lord of the Rings. And marketing, and Amazon has, an unlimited amount of money when it comes to marketing and development. We're also years away from this game ever seeing the light of day. So the important thing here is that he says, does dun, 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 dun. Given that the Lord of the Rings Online has a head start of more than a decade, does this affect the potential for Amazon Games' own title? And Hartman had this to say: not at all. First of all, I have a lot of respect for them to keep it going that long. They have a not huge, but a very dedicated fan base. But looking just at the tech and where we're at now and where we're going to be in a couple of years, it's worlds apart. It's a little exaggeration if I say it, but it's like kind of like black and white movies going to color. But that's the approach I want to take. It's a completely different world. I think these games can coexist. The most likely scenario is probably for people just to move over because the other one's an old game. It's not a bad game, but the industry does move on at some point, and it's a long time from their release to ours. He also talks of expanding the genre's customer base, making an MMO for non-MMO players. So remember, they are all about games as a service. They need to for this to be profitable. So even though yes, they want to make a good game, they are definitely approaching this from a business standpoint first and a game development standpoint after the fact. And how do I know this? Because they're still prototyping ideas for the type of game it's going to be, which he mentions in this interview. That means they haven't actually settled on what type of a game is the Amazon. Like they can't tell us it's going to be a isometric top-down Diablo 4 style action RPG with multiplayer components. They haven't told us it's going to be a Star Wars: The Old Republic experience, which a third-person over-the-shoulder RPG with MMORPG elements. They haven't told if it's going to be a third-person over-the-shoulder adventure RPG with multiplayer components. Thinking like, why am I blanking on any games? What did I just play recently? Think Destiny. Destiny 2 is a good example. Is it going that route? We just don't know what they're doing with this game at this point. Neither do they. So they are approaching this from a business first standpoint. Um, he says if Amazon can accomplish what they want to do, it will give the game an advantage over Lord of the Rings Online, which is very much structured like World of Warcraft. It says here it's worth noting that Amazon has not referred to their project as an MMORPG, with which both LOTRO and WoW undoubtedly are. The success, or excuse me, the concept of those games has evolved dramatically since 2007, when titles like Destiny created an MMO experience for the first-person shooter players. That's funny that they mentioned Destiny here. It's unclear what genre their game will be built around because the team is only now prototyping ideas. But it is clear that audience expectations have changed too. And then he goes on to talk about, the type of challenges that their development team is going to face and the way people play games these days and PvP and everything else. Says here, thankfully, Amazon Games Orange County can draw large lessons from their debut project New World. They had some technical issues there. Um, it says the biggest lesson, however, is demand for content. It says people just literally burn through content at an incredible speed. We could not keep up with new content. At the beginning, we said we obviously need post-launch content. With the time frame over, we thought we had a lot of experienced people saying 2 or 3 months, but people burn through what we expected them to take 2 or 3 months in just 1 month. We have to prepare better, essentially. Hey everyone, Renfail here with the commercial part of the video where I say, hey, if you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And thanks to all of our supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon, our highest members, our guild champions, Crazy's Relative, Remy D here on YouTube. And don't forget, if you want to support, it's really easy. You can do the memberships below, the Adventurers Guild, 3 different tiers. There's also the super thanks on any uploaded video or YouTube short that you find. There's also, of course, the super chats and stickers that you could do on any live stream or premiere, and the Patreon page if you want to dive into the fantasy world that I have with my brother and my wife, which is a tabletop game, a point-and-click adventure game, and a fantasy book series. All are great ways to keep this channel going and me going full-time. Thanks again for those of you who support. Let's get back to the video that you're watching now. Amazon has confirmed the game is going to center around stories and characters from both The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, which puts it in the same time frame, which is the Third Age. But does it actually confirm that it's Third Age? The books also contain a lot of stuff in the appendices, which is where the Rings of Power got off with making a Second Age show. So we don't know. But they are able to pull, that's the rights they have, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Says, how do they create a new Middle Earth that is both their own creative vision and also familiar to those who previously enjoyed adaptations. Hartman says we've had that debate in the studio. We have some diehard Lord of the Rings fans, and they're already saying we can't do that, or Middle Earth Enterprises is not going to allow it. We're not going to be able to alter the story and introduce new characters or write the books. He says it's very important to me that it's first a game and a reflection of the books second. So remember, this is a business venture for them. It is about it's going to be a video game. They need it to be profitable. The lore and the setting are secondary. So his primary interest here at this point is making sure they create something that's profitable for the company. That's not a bad thing, but understand this going in that game first, IP second. Um, he says, I understand it. He said, but it's not about every person going in and pointing out if the detail is 100% perfect. By the way, I fully support this concept. I'm playing and loving, I don't know where my phone's at right now, Heroes of Middle Earth, which is a mobile game that just launched. I love it. I don't care if it's not true to the lore. I really don't care. It's a game. I can separate myself out from that, and I'm having a great time with it. So if they can do the same thing here, I'm going to play it no matter what. It's a new Lord of the Rings game. I would definitely play it. So there's a bunch of stuff in here that you should go read through at your leisure if you want to get the best information about the project and the interview. And, it doesn't look like Lord of the Rings Online is going anywhere as long as they can maintain profitability and renew their license and everything else. And it looks like, the head of Amazon's the guy who's, one of the vice presidents who's behind the development of the upcoming MMO. He's very candid about how he thinks the games can coexist, and obviously some players will migrate. I'll definitely go try it out. Doesn't mean I'll stick with it long term, but I'll definitely try it out. The games can coexist, but it's good to hear the Amazon making statements that yeah, Lord of the Rings Online can totally coexist with them. We're not a threat. You know, they have their fan base. We're gonna have our fan base. We're gonna cater to a different community. That's good to hear. Um, I think it's a good interview. I think it bodes well for the future of all things Middle Earth. And as a lover of all things Middle Earth, I can't wait to see what their team is going to pull out of their hat in terms of a really cool and fun, uh, whatever it is, type of experience that we're going to get to sink our teeth into probably 4 or 5 years down the road. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, everybody. See you in the next update. Cheers.